So it's taken me forever to film this, but I did a little Q&A on my Instagram, and now I'm just gonna go through and answer those questions. So the first question is, are things getting better over there? Yes, things are not totally better. They still have cases in China, obviously, and there's still cases in our city, but things are getting back to normal, and more businesses are opening, and people are going out, people are less scared, and it is starting to feel a little bit more like normal life. So that has been so nice. So in Qingdao, there are currently only 9 cases that are being treated in the hospital. They have all come from outside of China, but they are all Chinese nationals. So the next question is, are schools and bars and restaurants and theaters and all of that open? No. So they are starting to open things more and more. So they've kind of staggered the opening of businesses. So everything was shut down except for grocery stores, and then they've just slowly opened up different businesses. Schools are still closed. We have no start date for those. So the next one is, do you know anyone who has or does have the virus? No, we don't know anyone personally that has had it or contracted it here in China, and we didn't get it. And yeah, we've actually had like the healthiest winter ever because we've just stayed inside. Okay, next one is, have grocery stores run out of food like they have in the States? They didn't here at all. We were sent, mass text messages from the government. From the government saying, do not overbuy, that will be like more detrimental to the country if you do that. No shortages. We've had no problem with toilet paper, so I don't know if it's that people listen here. I don't know. I'm not gonna go into that, but we haven't had any shortages as far as groceries go. Where did everyone get their masks? That's an interesting question in Asia because wearing masks is not that abnormal, so you can honestly buy them at most stores. I know in the States that's not like a normal thing that people buy. I don't even know where you would buy them, but here you can get them at just like a normal small grocery store. There were definitely some shortages when all of this happened, so I know a lot of masks were sent from overseas, and I know now they're distributing them and trying to send them back over because of what's going on, elsewhere. But most people have masks already because a lot of people wear them for the pollution here, so a lot of people have them normally. Next one is, have people still been going to work? When everything was shut down, it was during Chinese New Year, which is a normal week break for most jobs. So people took that week break, and then the government actually extended the holiday by another week and asked everyone to stay home. And then they also extended that by another week and asked people that if they could to work from home. Most people didn't go back to work for 3 to 4 weeks. Chance worked from home for 4 weeks. How long have you been quarantined? So we were never forced into our homes. There was never any issue with us getting in and out. So I wouldn't call it this lockdown where we were going to be in trouble if we went out, because we did go out. They let us out of our apartment. They let us back in. They let us into stores. But the government did ask, please limit limit going out and go out for only necessary things. So people went out for, grocery shopping, and they really pushed that people needed to stay healthy. So people were going on their daily walks like normal. Definitely way less than normal, but people were still doing that. So we were never quarantined into our homes. But we did stay in for about 2 weeks. We went out a couple times during that time, but for 2 weeks straight, we pretty much stayed in. And then we really have been only going out a few times a week since then too. So we are on I don't know, week 9, I think. I've stopped counting because it's just depressing. Okay, next one is, why are you in China and how long have you been there? So short story is that we were here for my husband's job. He's an accountant for a small business here, and we have been in Qingdao for 18 months now. So we had some good time under our belt before all of this broke out. We are just so grateful that we're here still and that we're safe, and we still feel really safe and happy here. Next one is, while you were on lockdown, were you unable to leave your house? Like I previously said, yes, we were allowed to leave our house. We were not shut in. There was no forced telling us that we had to stay in. I know a lot of people, when they hear of like, when they read the news about China, they hear this lockdown and think that the government is forcing people to stay in and not allowing them to go out. And that's just not the case, at least what we experienced here in Qingdao. So I've read articles and they do not match up with the experience that we have had. So do not believe everything you read and think that people are just like being shut in and not given their basic necessities. So we have felt very safe, very taken care of, and we have not felt any amount of force or anything like that. So this one is funny. It says, I'm struggling to do anything but lay around and look at the news. How did you get into a routine? The first week was hard because we just kept looking at the news and looking at the numbers, and they just kept skyrocketing overnight, and it was just this really scary feeling. But then I finally just stopped looking at it because the news that I was seeing and the articles I was reading did not match up with like how things actually were and how it felt. And so I realized that like reading those articles was actually making me scared when in reality, our day-to-day life was not scary. And so I totally stopped looking at the news, and then we set a daily schedule, and that helped a ton. So, you know, we got up at like a certain time every day, we worked out, we did homeschool, we went outside to play, we scheduled meal times. It was so much smoother and easier once we just set a schedule. Have they told us when school is going to start again? Nope, we have no start date, and we don't plan to hear about one until probably a few days before. Where in China are you located? So we are in Qingdao. It's in Shandong province, and it's right across from the Korean peninsula. So we are on the coast and we're north. It's a beautiful city. When this all calms down, you should come visit. This one says, how does the government keep people in their house and compliant? We don't follow the news here because, hello, it's in Chinese and it's hard to understand. I mean, we can have daily conversations and my husband can speak relatively well, but to follow the news is like a whole nother level. So I don't think there was any like great force. Like I said, I haven't felt that. I haven't seen that. I think people here just listen. I really like... They've seen maybe what happens when they don't listen, and that's a scary thing. But as far as our experience, what we saw, there was no forcing people in their homes, there was no violence or anything like that. People were scared though of this virus, and I think they stayed in because they were scared and they knew that that was going to help the spread, and they trusted their government on that. Next one is, how do you get your kids to wear masks? Our kids haven't had a hard time. Winnie, I think, would have a harder time if she didn't have Emery. It's easy to get her to do things by saying, look, Emery's doing it. So Emery's old enough to get why we wear them, and then Winnie just kind of follows along. And now it's like this habit. Winnie and Emery both, like before we leave, it's like, oh, get my shoes on. Oh, where's my mask? It's like not even a question anymore. Next one is, does China have medicine for the virus? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. I don't think they're hiding the medicine, if that's what you're asking. I don't think that. This question makes me laugh too. It says, were you ever scared that you were gonna get it? And are we screwed because our government sucks? I do know this person is in the US, so. I really wasn't that scared of getting the virus. I knew that even if I did get the virus, I probably would be okay. Yeah, I really wasn't that afraid, especially where like we follow the numbers here, and the odds of us getting it were so low that it just hasn't really scared me. Are you screwed because your government sucks? I have not liked like watching how all of this has been dealt with. I am not like way into politics, so I'm not gonna like go into great detail on this, but I do think that I don't like that what I keep hearing is, you know, I've heard that Trump has said that they didn't know in time, and that's kind of frustrating to hear because this has been going on for months here now, and there was plenty of time to be more prepared for this situation than he's acting like he could have been. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing. I also hate hearing things like, oh, well, we don't know if China's lying about their numbers. I feel like that's such an easy cop-out because it is, you know, a socialist, a communist government, and it's so easy to just be like, oh, they're lying. But from our situation, I don't think they're lying about the numbers, at least in our city and in our province. And like, if they were lying, I feel like we would know because we live here and it would be much harder to hide here, you know? So I don't like hearing things like, oh, well, they're probably lying. We can't trust anything China says. I just think that's an easy, let's point fingers at someone else, let's turn it on someone else. And yeah, I just think it's kind of a lame cop-out. But I think the US is super strong, and if people will come together and fight this together, I think everything will be okay. Here, it has been cool to see that the country really has come together and fought really hard together, and I just think it's so important in situations like this to stop pointing fingers and to unite and to help one another. Oh, this one makes me sad. It says, can you travel yet? We have a trip planned for the end of May. Traveling is opening up more and more. I would say they're still traveling though for business reasons, not for fun. If you want to stay in a hotel here, you have to have extensive paperwork as to where you've been, where you've stayed, if you've been outside of the country. So it's a lot of work. So we are 2 months out, and yeah, travel is not really happening right now. We had a trip planned for the end of April, which will not be happening, and we're really, really sad about that because it was going to be Chance and I's first trip alone together in years. So that makes me really sad. What kind of impact does this have on the economy? It greatly impacts the economy because everything's been shut down. But I feel like they did a really good job just shutting everything down and really slowing down the spread and kind of quarantining it to that one area. And so they sacrificed like 2 months, but now things are starting to rise again, which I think is better than obviously like only thinking about the economy and feeling like, oh, we can't stop production of things that will just tank our economy, but then like, you know, to have millions of people die is not good for the economy. So I do think that they sacrificed these 2 months knowing it was going to take a major hit, and then now it's on the rise. This one is hard. What do you do for me time? So that has been such a hard thing for me because like me time for me is to go out, to just go to dinner with a friend or lunch with a friend or whatever, and can't do that. So the biggest thing that we did every day is we have an hour of independent play for the kids, and for that hour I do whatever I want. The rules are I can't clean during that hour. So I usually listen to a podcast, or I watch a show, or I take a nap, or a lot of times I sit in the sunroom out here and just kind of look outside now that it's warm enough to do that. And just having that hour where people aren't asking me for things and needing things from me, then I'm able to kind of like refresh and start the rest of the afternoon until Chance gets home. So this one we kind of touched on, that said, what did you do when stores closed and you ran out of certain food items? Grocery stores never closed. I didn't stock up on anything. Like I had rice and I had beans and different things like that I always have in the house, so we weren't way worried, but things did not run out and grocery stores never closed. So that was never a worry for us. It was never an issue. I honestly don't remember even stressing about that. Like watching things go down in the US, I'm like, man, maybe I was really stupid and did not think about that. But I just trusted the text messages we were getting, and I also trusted the fact that when I would go into a grocery store, it was open and fully stocked. What was it like the first few days before you were quarantined? So it literally happened overnight here. It was like Chinese New Year was kind of normal, but we knew something was happening. The next day we went out to go to dinner with our friends at her house, and then seriously the next day it was like nobody went out. It was so crazy. It literally happened within a span of like 2 days. And honestly, I think we got the memo a little late. I think people weren't going out even when we were going out. So I do think that it was like they shut down Wuhan, and the next day they shut down everything else. It was like there was no planning. So that may be another reason why grocery stores weren't totally cleared out because people did not have time to plan. So I'm a visitor again and she's all dressed up. So this last question is, my son is autistic and needs routine. We are drowning here. Any ideas? So I actually have a sister who has 2 kids with autism, so I reached out and asked her what she's done, and it's pretty much the same things that we have done. They thrive on routines and schedules, so they've made a schedule and they go through that schedule every day and make sure that the kids know what's happening next, and they actually have the schedule written down so the kids can see that and are aware of what's coming, which I think is such a good idea. She also said she had them kind of help with the schedule and give input on things that they wanted to do and needed to do, and that helped them a lot. So I think a lot of this is helpful for a lot of people. Schedules, rewards, planning things out. Emery does so much better when she knows what's coming. If she doesn't know what's happening throughout the day, it's a constant like, oh, what are we doing? When are we doing this? And it's so exhausting as a parent. So just be aware that kids want to know what's happening next. That's why they do so well at school, because it's routine, they get it. So just try and set those schedules. It'll help you so much. Thanks so much for sending in those questions. If you have any other questions, please let me know. I want to help because I know that this is such a stressful time, and I would have loved to have had someone have gone through it before we did, because we were just in the dark and we had no idea what was happening and it was scary. So please don't be afraid to reach out and ask any questions. And just remember, it's going to be okay. I know it feels like really heavy right now and really scary, but it'll be okay. It's going to be really hard. But try and focus on what's most important. You know, write down blessings that you have and things that you're grateful for, and just kind of take this time to reset and refocus.